us back up as well as... and did you see the examples of using video? Video within the company, video with marketing? Can I encourage you that much more to use video to really enhance your marketing and to get your messages within sales as well as out to your potential clients? So Peter, I didn't get a chance to introduce you, but Peter runs a company in South Asia, and we thought we'd start with your perspective on how you're marketing the cloud in Southeast Asia.
Thank you, Luann. Just to give you a quick context, because I think I'd like to tell you why should you listen to someone from South Asia, from a small country like Sri Lanka. Let me tell you quickly about Sri Lanka, because a lot of you know about India. We are in the south of India. We are not part of India, but we are an island very close to India. But we have done a few things before India. For example, we introduced GSM and 3G before India. We introduced IP telephony before India. The MPLS network, IP VPNs were first introduced in Sri Lanka before India. And we installed the large CRS router at a telco in Sri Lanka before it was deployed in India. Now, I don't say this to take anything away from any of my friends who might be from the subcontinent. But what I'm trying to say is that today we have the opportunity in a very small island like Sri Lanka to leapfrog in terms of technology. And that's where we see some of the challenges that countries like us in Latin America and Africa and in Asia would face with what's happening with virtualization and cloud. So I worked with another company some years ago, and that company got acquired by the London Stock Exchange. In fact, they used the technology developed by this company in Sri Lanka to run the stock exchange today. You must have read about it. It's Millennium Information Technologies. So London Stock Exchange runs on that. But I moved out because I was not part of the software business. I ran the systems integration business. And 2 years ago, I started a company with a big conglomerate in Sri Lanka. We call ourselves Enable. And as soon as I started the company, my entire business plan went up in thin air. Because we had targeted some of the large telcos, because we were a big Cisco partner. We did 80% of Cisco's telco business, including all the big rollout of MPLS. And then the economic crisis hit us. And one of our largest customers, we had targeted $6 million of revenue. It just went from $10 billion profit telco, mobile telco company, to zero profit. And the next year they went to 10 billion loss. It's a big company. It's a subsidiary of a foreign telco company. So I happened to stumble upon virtualization because I had to keep the business running. I knew I was not going to get the big deals. I happened to come upon virtualization and VMware. And VMware is a very elegant way, a simple way of telling their story. I learned it. We spoke to our customers. And through that, we came to cloud. And we found that customers were able to quickly relate to what virtualization can do to their business. But I won't talk about that. But what's frightening for a company like me and for a lot of systems integrators like you out here is virtualization and cloud computing is going to drive a lot of us out of business. That's a fact. And don't take it from me. Read Gartner, read IDC. A lot of us, I honestly feel that I am like in the horse carriage business with the advent of the motor vehicle. And that's not a joke. So, why is it that this wonderful transformational technology is not catching on? Why aren't people in countries where small and medium businesses are decimated by the economic collapse, why aren't they lining up to buy cloud computing? And I think the answer lies largely with the telco with the technology companies and partners like us. Because if you take, everyone's talking about the iPad. People are rushing to buy the iPad. Nobody needs to come and sell it to you, right? You know that experience. Why can't we bring that experience into cloud and virtualization, which is so compelling? When we went with virtualization, we went to a customer, a quick capacity planning tool was run, and we could demonstrate very quickly. You can reduce 300 machines to 30. Has he signed up and bought it? Not yet. And I'll come to where that problem lies. So, the adoption is slow because we are part of the problem. On the one extreme, you have our friend Mr. Larry Ellison from Oracle. Have you heard him on TV, on YouTube? Anyone heard Larry on YouTube, on cloud? It's hilarious. He's with Ed Zander. ex-Sun, and I worked for Sun for a while. He just carries on. He carries on, and he says, what is this nonsense of cloud computing? It's the very absurdity of the idea. And he says some nitwit venture capitalists have cooked this up. And he goes on and on and on. And a year before, he was even more bewildered and completely exasperated, and he said, what the hell is cloud computing? And he describes it as, it's nothing but computers in a network. Now that is oversimplification, because just a few months ago, I believe, in October, our friend Larry Ellison decided we are part of the cloud bandwagon now. So now he talks about the cloud and cloud products. Because the one thing that he was frightened of is that a lot of the large enterprise customers were not going to sign up for large amounts of money to be paid to Oracle for their Oracle licenses with the cloud. So it was in his interest to delay the adoption of cloud as much as possible. That's one extreme. But on the other is companies like Cisco, with all due respect, Luan. We sell the underlying technology. Take some of Cisco's jargon. Data Center 3.0. What does that mean? So I go to Mr. Customer and say, Mr. Customer, you have a data center. I'm going to give you Data Center 3.0. Is he going to fall out of his chair? He says, really? I thought my data center would have gone through a lot more stages of evolution, and I should be at Data Center 12 or something like that. It's utterly meaningless to me. Secondly, UCS. What does UCS mean? The underlying technology of UCS is fantastic. It's the way the computer merges with the network and that whole Nexus story. It's a fantastic story. But Cisco kills it by calling it UCS. Urban Community Service. Why don't you just call it converged networking? Companies do these crazy things. Sun Microsystems had one of the most progressive slogans I've ever heard. The network is the computer. They got smart. And they said, we are the dot in .com. The .com bubble burst. With that went their slogan. But
so
if they
much for
kept
their
it.
Slogan.
Exactly.
Slogans don't totally make a company.
But if they kept it. Today, Cisco is the company that's driving that slogan. But Cisco can't use that. But if you hear John Chambers and everyone speak, they talk about the network is the computer. So, what I'm getting at is, I don't need to be disrespectful to Cisco. That's not my intention. But I'm challenging our own notions of what we should use to sell. We are selling the technology too hard, but not the underlying experience. Just take examples of other industries. We talk about architecture, architectural plays. Let's take the construction industry. There's a lot of architecture there. You'll never see them sell the construction. A solid construction. The foundation, the steel struts that you have to use, that is solid technology. But if they come and sell that to you and say, now come and host your office in my new building, that would be insane. But they hide all that and they say, here are the services I provide. Here are the cool services I provide. And then you go to that office and build your office exactly the way you want it. That's like the cloud. So they don't sell the underlying technology, they sell the experience. So the other industries do this very well. Airline industry does it very well. Nobody sells you the engine in an Airbus A380. No one. But you want to get into A380 because they talk about the flat bed and the experience and the food. Singapore Airlines sold their whole product as Singapore girl, what a great way to fly. But they changed it because later it became quite sexist. But that's how they sold it. So I'm getting at what we are actually marketing here, the underlying technology or the experience. But there are examples from our own industry. Take Gmail. When I started my company, I didn't want to spend on mail. I went to Gmail. So Peter at n-able.biz sits in Gmail. And it's free. So I made the mistake of buying a lovely rack. And in our lovely little office, we thought we'll set up a data center. Today, that rack is empty. There's just one server in that rack. So Gmail sells this experience without talking about any of the underlying technology. Skype does a very good job of it. There's some cool technology behind Skype. A lot of it powered by Cisco. A lot of routing and switching. But they don't talk about any of that. They just say, Pick up the phone, make a call. Salesforce.com, a good example of cloud computing. In fact, I urge you to look at the video that they have, a lovely presentation on what is cloud computing. Easily the best that I've seen. You must have seen it, Bob. It is, you have seen it, Luann. It's a no-brainer. It's for idiots. And the amazing thing is, they use technology only once in that entire presentation. It's crystal clear to me. And they talk only of one thing, not virtualization, nothing, but multi-tenancy. That's the only thing they say. And they compare it to a building where you walk in, like I explained earlier. It's crystal clear. So my point is, why are we so hung up about selling the technology and not the experience? And this is the problem that we all face, because we are always pitching to the IT guys. And that's where we face a huge problem as Cisco partners. The sales cycle is long. It takes 9 months for us to sell a regular network with quality of service and traffic engineering. Forget about borderless network. It takes you 9 months to sell it, because the IT guy digs into all the details, he jerks around, and finally you sell it at such low margins. Long sales cycle, low margins. Not a great business model, right? So we need to sell this to the CEOs, the CIOs. And that's where we need companies like Cisco and other technology companies to help us to completely master the technology. Not the architectural plays, not DC 3.0, but give us something a lot more exciting. Not for us, but for our customer. And so I come to the last point, which is the proposition that what we are marketing today is not the cloud. It is not the cloud that's the product. And if we all get hung up in selling the cloud, we won't get very far. It's not even the access. That's taken for granted. MPLS, when we tried to sell it to banks, they said, no, my God, what about security? We can't have VPNs, correct? Today, banks won't think twice before they get a VPN connection. They don't ask you any questions about security. Is my little customer's account number going through this network? They don't ask you that. So that's a given. So all we can sell is the service and the experience. And Denny, when you sat there, spoke about the company, what really excited me was not any of that you presented, but the application that you showed me. It took you less than 30 seconds to show me. You opened his iPhone, showed me the application. You should look at it. It's a winner. So I don't need to know all about what Denny does. If he shows me the application, that'll do the trick. And finally, none of this is new. None of this is new. This is all fundamentals of marketing that I learned when I started marketing lessons. My teacher told me that the role of marketing is to make salespeople redundant. If you do the marketing so well, an iPad, nobody comes to your house to sell an iPad. You go and stand in a queue to buy an iPad. And he also told me that people buy only 2 things. Think about it. People buy only 2 things. Whatever you buy, shoe, perfume, a router, whatever, you buy only 2 things. You buy solutions and you buy good feelings. You buy good feelings. You buy a nice car, it's a good feeling. It's not transportation, right? Right, you get it. And then he said, we don't sell this product but the value. He said, don't sell the 3mm drill bit and say what a great bit it is. Sell the 3mm hole. And he really capped it by saying, don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle. So my submission is that as marketeers, and Cisco included, we should try not to analyze the components of protein in the steak, but sell the sizzle. Thank you.
Great. That was excellent. Thank you. So how do you sell the feeling of the cloud? Who wants to answer that one?